Okay, good evening everybody, welcome to the Scrutiny on Improvements July meeting. First on the agenda is to sign the minutes of the meeting on the 2nd of April. Do we have any amendments required to the minutes, or is the committee happy that I sign them as a true and accurate record? Councillor Ritchie?
I'm happy that you sign them as a correct record. There's an extra item, an issue that I just wanted to comment on. We missed the meeting.
Yes, we did. Yes.
I would like it minuted, but I think that that was a bad mistake. I think that there were important issues that had come up from the council meeting, and I think that the issues that we're about to discuss tonight, about particularly the issues that concern the Daventry Town Centre and so on, I think that these were not things that should have been put off. I think that there was business that we should have been there doing our job in scrutinising.
Okay, cool. As chairman, as someone who made the call, I'll take the comments on board, and it wasn't a decision I took lightly, but we have to take into account using officers' time, using resources and all the rest, and there wasn't an awful lot to go through, but certainly I'll take your comments on board, and they've been recorded, and I'm sure they'll be minuted for tonight's meeting. Okay, item number 2 is apologies for absence. There's just one. Councillor Wesley has work commitments, so can't make it tonight, but has sent his apologies to me. Item number 3 is declaration of members' interests. Do we have any declarations from members present? No. Thank you. So item number 4, thank you very much, Councillor James, for coming along to talk to us about your portfolio role and ongoing capital projects in Daventry and the surrounding areas. Without further ado, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, my name is David James, and I hold the portfolio of economic regeneration and employment. Big title, the little man. But I think most of you know me anyway. Thank you for inviting me along this evening, because it is good to talk about this subject, what we've achieved and what we haven't achieved yet, and what we hope we can achieve in the future. So I'll continue now with the presentation. Daventry Progress and Vision. Members who have been on the council a long time will remember that we had a Daventry Town Centre vision that lasts from 2004 to 2021, and that was swiftly followed by a Daventry Master Plan. That's these documents here, draft documents, make very interesting reading looking back in retrospect. We then had the West Northants Core Strategy in 2014, which, amongst other things, is to do with housing as well, and housing in the Northampton-related areas too. Followed by an Economic Development Strategy, 2018 to 2021, which includes the Rural Economic Strategy, which came into being somewhat later. And then finally the Settlements and Countryside Local Plan 2019, which is out before the inspectorate now, and I suppose subject to it getting past that hurdle, that might come into being at the beginning of next year, I would think, although parts of it can be taken into account if they're sufficiently strong at this stage. So those are the documents that have been prepared covering planning and development issues affecting both the Daventry Central area and of course the district, the wider aspects of the district. Now in the original Daventry Town Centre Vision Plan, which is current at the moment, we were proposing on 6 basic sites in Daventry itself to carry out the following. Site 1, which is just below centre there, site 1, that was going to be a cinema, restaurants and bars, and a few shops as well. That would have been the whole of that particular site, and that was going to be the Mulberry Place scheme. And Henry Boot was working on that in conjunction with us. Of course, as time went on, it became clear that Site 1 could not be developed, was not viable without a substantial input of public monies. I'll come back to Henry Boot later. Site 2, which very rarely gets referred to, was the Bowen Square and police officers mixed use. There was a scheme put forward, a proposal put forward in that plan for roofing over, I think, part of Bowen Square and redeveloping that site where the police offices are. I think at that time we were sure that the police station would close down in Daventry completely. A little bit of road widening there, and also a refurbished bus terminal. Of course, that has faded into the background. Bowen Square, of course, is in private ownership. And there's always a lot of speculation about what is happening at Bowen Square. Some people say it's up for sale. I'm not sure of that. I can find out. But it has been sold, one or the other. And there's the question of Waitrose. Won't they stay there? And when their lease comes to an end, which of course would be a catalyst for having to do something there.
Sorry, Councillor James, do you know when the Waitrose lease expires?
Well, I heard, don't quote me on this because I'm not sure, that it was almost imminent, maybe in the next year or two. The Waitrose is a very, very popular store with certain people. Personally, I don't shop there because I can't afford to shop there, but that's by the by. But it is very, very popular with Daventry people. How that measures up with Waitrose's requirements for a store, I do not know. Certainly Tesco's performs very well here in Daventry. And as do does Aldi.
Councillor Ritchie, do you have a question?
I wonder, I don't want to stop Councillor James's flow. There are a lot of big issues that I expect we will have a lot of discussion on. It's just that one or two things. You asked about the Waitrose lease. I think it would be helpful. There's got to be somebody in the district council that knows when it comes up, and it would be interesting to just when, because that could actually make a very big difference to the, what Bowen Square looks like.
Yes. Well, I can find that.
Thank you.
Right, make a note.
Site 3, which is the former Daventry water space, was going to have mixed use, residential, leisure and employment. You remember the sort of canal basin and connecting up to the proposed canal at the time. There would have been residential leisure. There was a suggestion at one stage that a hotel would go down on that site there. But anyway, Site 3 is on hold. Site 4A, which has been achieved, the Abbey Retail Park, where Halfords are and Home Base, etc. And of course the Working Men's Club. People forget that was part of my vision at that time. That has been achieved, of course, as you can see. Site 4G. Site 4G is the Icon building, which as time goes on fits in very well. I always think the Icon now looks much better than when it was first built. Now the boarding is weathered in. And it is a valuable asset in terms of providing a forum for small concerts, the cafeteria there, which is quite useful for meeting people, and the offices. Thank you, University of Northampton, and whoever helped bring over that. But that's been achieved. Site 5. Come on to that a little bit later. Site 5 was the retail park, hotel and family pub, and elderly persons accommodation. As we shall see, that has been put on ice because Henry Boot have withdrawn as intended developer of that site. Site 6, that has been achieved, the educational facilities, the UTC building, which is now is now Daventry E Act, and the Hill School. So the learning quarter on site 6 has been achieved. Whilst we're on education, we have been discussing for at least a year or two about the possibility of a new school in Daventry, but of course the DfE have gone very, very quiet on that. Perhaps because one of our difficulties here is that we do have more than enough secondary school places. So it's hardly likely that they will come up with money to have a new school in Daventry whilst that situation pertains. And of course it is difficult for us in Daventry as more and more people are sending their children for secondary education outside of Daventry for one reason or another. Whether it's to do with public perception about the quality of education in Daventry, or whether it's to do with the actual achievement of pupils in Daventry, I wouldn't care to speculate. But I do know from pupils that have attended schools in Daventry that the best students in Daventry are as good as the best students from anywhere else. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Daventry sends pupils on through to university and to some of the leading universities too. I think it's probably more to do with perception, which has led to people, our catchment area, people coming in from the villages, say, not coming in anymore, going to places like rugby, to private schools, and so on. That situation, of course, may reverse, as school places, I believe, in rugby are now very, very scarce indeed. So maybe there is a case, I don't know, I'd speculate, for maybe one good secondary school in Daventry that would take the lot and a few more besides. But we shall have to see. So I said, DfE is very, very quiet about it, and we keep giving them a little bit of a chivia now and again, but nothing is forthcoming. So that's on the boil, as it were, or on the gas. Delivered projects, as I say, the Abbey Retail Park Working Men's Club, which was a £12 million investment. The Icon was an £8 million investment. And Site 6, the Education Quarter, that was a £20 million investment. So that's 28, that's 40 million, and we must have got some capital grants, I would think, to have helped towards that. But You see that icon building there? It looks much better now. It looks good in that photograph than it did when it was first built. Quite pleased with it. And of course, to do that, we reduced the size of that roundabout. Just at the bottom, down at the bottom there, was reduced in size. That is an achievement. On then to entertainment and leisure. We are in the process of developing Site 1 of our own initiative without a developer. In other words, we've taken charge of the project as a whole, which is a first really. It's a bit risky, you know that. But we've assembled and we own the site. We estimate that the cinema and the two restaurants which we're proposing, including the library, excluding that should be the library location, will be about 12 million. We've had to relocate the library at an extra cost, and that was done very, very efficiently. I don't think anyone doubts that, and it's much better both for the library service and for the public too. So we've got a fairly modern library now at last, which is fit for purpose, unlike the old one, which was far too big and wasn't really fit for purpose. We've got planning approval then for the 4-screen cinema, including the 2 restaurants, and a public square. And if the transfer of assets goes through, DTC will be responsible for the public square, hopefully, and no doubt that they'll be able to make good use of that for events that they put on, and so on. That has the potential to boost the nighttime economy. We've got a design and build contractor that's been appointed. Preliminary works have commenced, the old grammar school being knocked down. There'll be an archaeological dig at the end of this month and during August. And then we're hoping for maybe in the autumn, if all goes okay with no delays, they can get on then with site preparation, erection of steelwork. And construction will go on throughout next year with an Easter 2021 opening date. Now the reason for that Easter 2021 date isn't that we couldn't have got it done a little bit earlier. It's because of the nature of how it's being done. The operator of the cinema will want to fit out themselves for a number of reasons, because they know what needs to be done, and also there may be taxation reasons for them wanting to actually fit out themselves, capital allowances, so on and so forth. I don't know. So it's anticipated in Easter 2021, hopefully before the vesting date. Will be the vesting date when we drop out of the picture altogether and the UTC takes over fully 2021. Yeah.
So I have quite a number of questions on the cinema.
Yeah.
Is it better that we actually take rather than jumping around and coming back?
Get far away.
I think so.
I mean, my first one, are you giving us good news when you say that the total cost is 12 million, including the relocation?
No, not included. I said that should be excluded.
That should be excluding. So the total cost is so more or less as it is, as it has been reported. I know that when this scheme was first put forwards, the budget was 8 million.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it jumped up 4 million. That struck me as a huge jump. I'd be grateful if you could tell us a little bit about how it happened and how it came about that you and the officers got the original budget so wrong. I mean, this is quite an embarrassment when we talk to people outside, outside these offices, that they could have got it wrong by 50% on a project of this sort.
But that was for the cinema.
For the cinema?
Yeah. There are 2 restaurants going each side, one each side of it. The other reason for that is, if you remember, when I use these words in council, this is a ballpark figure. It was a guesstimate, basically, at first, because we were in a hurry to get the project off the ground long before Wilmot Dixon came into the picture at all. So it isn't a matter of, it's cost us 8 million, now it's going to cost us 12. That was our best guess at that time. What it might cost
but
us.
I mean, you must now accept that it was actually a very poor guess.
Well, we'd have to disaggregate it, take out of the 12 million, take the restaurants out, and see what was there for the cinema.
Well, nevertheless, for what was proposed, there was a budget of 8 million that then jumped to become a budget. What was it, 12.3 million?
Yeah. And we didn't anticipate then having a very fancy public square.
Can I ask, has there been... Sorry, Chair.
Yeah, continue.
Can I ask, has there been any review amongst the officers or amongst the portfolio holders as to where, what went wrong, how the ballpark figure turned out to be so far away? Does it suggest that perhaps that DDC, while it may have excellent officers, it doesn't necessarily have the sort of experience that was needed to come up with a much better estimate of what this was going to cost? Has there been that sort of review? Are there any conclusions that have been reached for I mean, not that we can spend 12 million terribly often, but if we ever have situations like this again?
Yeah, we have a quantity surveyor who's advising.
Sorry,
a quantity surveyor. A quantity surveyor consultant who advises and is continually keeping costs under review. I think the last figure I mentioned in full council was 12.3 million. And since then, there have been certain adaptations to the scheme. Because the site slopes, part of it was going to be a basement area and an extra space. That has been taken out of it, cutting the cost down to around 12 million. So it may well be that it might come well under that figure. It might come well under.
It just strikes me that this has been, for DDC, a big embarrassment.
No, it isn't. No.
Well, I only talk about what I actually hear.
You're talking about the cinema and 2 restaurants. We said 8 million for a cinema.
So essentially, Councillor James is saying that the initial estimate was for a slightly different project. It was a project of a small scope.
How much is a cinema going to cost? And we said 8 million. And then it progressed to 2 restaurants, and then of course the public square. We could have done a much cheaper square.
Can I ask then, where within the financial plan did you find the extra 4 million to cover the 2 cinemas? Because the figure that was put into the financial plan, as far as I can recall, was 8 million.
In the financial plan?
Yeah.
That, you got lost on that.
Well, it was within the budget. There was a line that showed that for this project, for Site 1, there was about 8 million. Then all of a sudden you're saying that it was 12 million.
Yeah.
There was a story before about, I can't remember if it was drainage or sewage pipes or whatever it was going to make the thing much more complicated. It was going to cost.
Right.
But now you're telling us that the extra cost was not that the extra cost was to do with restaurants.
No, I'm not breaking it down little bit by little bit. I mean, how much? I think the figure for the drains alone was something like, I think it was about 300,000. that to deal with wastewater down North Street. The services there are extremely old down there. I do remember that particular part of it. But if you want an itemised, I'm a chartered surveyor. I'm not a quantity surveyor. I'd have to get the whole sheets out of every single thing to cost it. That's not my job.
I hear what you're saying, but my concern is that it looks as if they just got this very wrong. You may say that you listen through
the 12 million figure has gone through CAD, 12.3 million.
Of course it has. And I have listened. Been listening to the discussions, the recordings of the various meetings at which this was discussed.
Yeah.
And it was certainly discussed at council and strategy group meetings in terms of an additional 4 million that the project was going to cost.
But that's old. That's been announced for months.
Well, you go back and listen to what both you and your colleagues, and in some cases officers, actually said at meetings about this project. You have claimed that the project is there as a manifesto commitment.
Yes.
When you made the last elections, a manifesto commitment, presumably you had a sum of money in mind, or do you not actually cost your manifesto commitments?
I don't think that was ever costed out at the time. It wasn't costed out in 2004 when it went in there.
So you don't cost things before you put them in your manifesto?
No.
Can I ask? There's another issue.
Can we wrap it up shortly? Because we've got Councillor Robertson waiting to ask a question.
But I wonder about the other issue that was raised at the last council meeting.
Yeah.
Concerning the operator. There were discussions, I can't really spotlight, back in June 2018, more than a year ago, refer to the discussion that you were having in Derngate. I would be interested in knowing is why Derngate decided they were not interested in taking the contract, and what relevance that has then. Why, if Daventry weren't interested, why should other operators be interested?
I'm not privy to that at all. I don't know why Dega or any of the other operators
the article was under your name.
But it doesn't say there any particular reason in that article.
Okay.
It would be wrong of me to suggest it. It's commercial confidentiality.
I'm not talking about the nature, about the precise.
Most of these cinema operators, they've got their own model for doing things, their own model of business, for example. I would imagine that perhaps what we are proposing didn't fit in with their particular model.
But back at a strategy group meeting in November of last year, was that 8 months ago?
Yes.
It was reported that it would have been desirable if at that stage an operator had been appointed. Now that to me suggests that there was a great deal of urgency in getting an operator appointed on the 15th of November of last year. 8 months on, and we don't have an operator.
We do have an operator.
We do. The contract has been signed.
Legals? No, the contract hasn't been signed, but the legals are in progress now. In fact, I think there was a meeting with officers last week.
My understanding would be if a contract hasn't been signed, we don't have an operator.
Well,
I mean, we were told before that we'll come to it later, we were told before we had retailers that were going to go to Site 5, but because leases had been agreed, but nothing had been signed.
that's right. And actually, as far as Site 5 goes, they would still like to come.
And the operator, when will an announcement be made? Because it is a question, I'm not quite sure. I do not want to suggest that when asked the question at the council meeting that you didn't answer, but sometimes your voice doesn't record all that well. And listening to the recordings, if you did give an answer, it wasn't an audible one. When are we likely to know when the...
As soon as I'm authorised to let you know. And that'll be when everything's signed up, agreement for a lease.
Okay, Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Chair. Never be accused of that, Ken. Anyway, basically I was just going to ask the same question you just this moment asked. Have we got a commercial tenant? I was going to add the words at commercial rates. You seem to have answered that question already by saying that it's in progress. I would like to know that it was going to be at a commercial rate though, rather than just giving it to them.
I know, it will be at...
that was my first question, basically you answered it. But my second question is, at planning the other day, we gave authority, or we gave permission to spend, or effectively, never mind the spend, we gave permission for it to be done to repair, I think it's that wall there to the right hand side, at a ludicrous cost of £140,000. Is that included in these figures?
Yes, it will be. 120,000.
I think it was 140, but anyway.
It's 120.
Oh, it's gone down.
I agree with you there, but that, was what the conservation officer wanted.
I think it's ridiculous, quite frankly, Ken, David. To spend that kind of money on an old Victorian wall, which the entire country's made of.
Councillor Robertson.
Just to try and clarify the point about the wall, it is subject to a report that went to strategy group last week and will go on to council next week or the week after, whenever council is.
Yeah.
So a decision to spend or whatever to do with that wall hasn't yet been made, although planning consent was sought and
Thank you.
So one more bite of the cherry. Yes, I mean, the cost there is purely because you'll probably find we have to have some of those bricks made up because sourcing that type of brick, and a lot of those bricks are perished and breaking up. They've got to be, what can be salvaged has got to be taken away and stored. Back added to and pointed up with lime water. It'll look very nice when it's finished.
I think this is a debate that we can have in council next week, so you'd like to continue.
At this moment in time, there we are. Right. It does have the potential to boost the nighttime economy. The design building contractor appointed the anticipated opening date early 2021. I hope it's a good wall film when it opens. Next one. Daventry Progress and Vision, future projects in Site 5, retail and leisure. You may remember planning permission was granted for retail units, drive-through restaurant, hotel, family pub and elderly persons accommodation. That would have been on the Warwick Street side and a substantial car park there. Henry Boot Developments, and we bent over backwards for Henry Boot on Site 5. And a number of councillors were getting concerned about this many months ago, before Henry Boot finally threw the towel in, that when is something going to be done? It has been very, very protracted, particularly as we have tenants, prospective tenants, lined up, and some of them are pressing us now, particularly on the hotel and the fast food restaurant there. But nevertheless, we weren't prepared, basically, to throw any more money at it, as it was with the Henry Boot thing, and they decided to walk away. They wanted, I suppose, can't blame them, things as they are in the wider economy, they probably were being a little bit ultra-conservative. So, fine. I mean, it would be reasonably straightforward if we wanted to do it, if we had the money to develop it piecemeal. But the trouble is with these developments, you know, you get a hotel there, a fast food restaurant there. The trouble is with doing that, after you've done it, you end up saying, oh, I shouldn't have done that, we should have waited and had this done first. So it really needs a comprehensive redevelopment on that site. The Warwick Street side of it is fairly straightforward, residential. That would be probably elderly persons accommodation, and there are certainly people pressing both on the food store side of it and on the fast food restaurant and the hotel in particular. I know that for a fact myself. There is a danger, of course, in not getting on with something on Site 5. One or other of the new supermarket firms might decide, I want to be in Daventry, what have you got? And they may decide that they can find an out-of-town site, which would put us in great difficulty then. So there is a risk in delaying things. But nevertheless, what the officers have suggested is, well, that Daventry Town Centre vision will run out in a couple of years' time anyway. Isn't it time that we had a new town centre vision put in place? Maybe there might be different ideas. Maybe we might add to it or subtract from it. So, as a result of that, the new vision for Daventry, which will be from 2020 possibly until 2035, will consider a new brief for Site 5. A new brief altogether. Still likely to include retail and leisure elements, but maybe the boundary of the new town centre vision might not be drawn tightly to allow for new transport accesses, if you like, and other issues too. So a fresh look at it. Now, on that particular issue, we're looking, if it goes through, full council, proposal for a new town centre vision. It would have an end date of about 2035, and it would be a programme roughly like this. There'd be a scoping and information gathering between August this year and November of 2019. The second stage would be initial public engagement from January to March 2020. This will be followed by a drafting of concepts to June 2020, and further public engagement and consultation will take place between July to September 2020. And subject to that, there'll be a refinement and approval of the new TCV in December 2020, whilst it's still under Daventry District Council's jurisdiction. Councillor Ritchie?
What I've heard might be good news, but I'm never quite certain sometimes when I hear it right away. The announcement that you had this difficulty that the relationship, the contract with Henry Wood was being brought to an end was November, all right? Yeah. I mean, I do have a problem with the way that happened, not the way that it happened. I mean, of course, officers and yourself cannot have an ongoing discussion with all council members on what is a commercial negotiation. I accept that. But nevertheless, up up until that moment, what we had been told was exceptionally upbeat. I've got a spotlight of June 2018 here that states that terms of lease have now been negotiated with several national retailers, with an announcement of these due later in the summer. Now, I mean, that to me suggests that they're all ready to move in with the places that were built and that contracts had been signed. But it became clear later that that was not the case, because there was no announcement. There wasn't even an announcement later in the summer saying that there was a delay. It was just quietly forgotten about. And I feel that in terms of the way that things are communicated, if in future we get a statement saying that, the contracts have been negotiated, well, an awful lot of people are simply not going to believe you unless we actually find a way of explaining that if there are difficulties, not necessarily explaining the detail of the difficulties or what the negotiating points are, but at least being a lot more open and honest about what progress is being made, so that we don't suddenly find that we're told, not even normal papers to the council, but as a last-minute paper that was put in front of, was it in front of the council or the strategy group? I can't remember which. Strategy group, I think. No, council, I think it was. February, is that right? I don't have the right bit of paper in front of me here. I just feel there's a problem there. Now, when this issue came up, it was reported that there was a certain pressure, reorganisation was looming, and therefore it was seen as being important that progress would be being made before the district council ceased to exist.
Yes.
That was seen as something that was important. When I raised questions, it was given a reason why it was not going to be possible to have a sort of consultation, a wider consultation, on what the alternative uses of Site 5 might be. There was a Daventry Town Implementation Working Group, I think it was about the end of May or early June, in which it was announced that yes, that there would be a consultation on how we make use of Site 5, and whether we simply assume that it is going to be simply a smaller retail park than we might have envisaged in the Henry Book period. But do I take it from what you have said that any consultation on alternative uses of Site 5 will now be taken as part of the wider consultation on a new vision? And if that is the case, do we have an assurance that no plans for Site 5 will be made until that consultation has been completed and the new vision agreed?
When you say new plans being made, obviously, eventually, before the new document can be prepared, there'll have to be some concepts in there of what has been chosen for that site. But until there's been public consultation, the new vision document won't be prepared. So there has to be public engagement.
I'm still not clear. I mean, yes, there has to be public involvement in moving us towards the new vision. But my anxiety, I was looking for assurance that the process will not be preempted by the district council taking action. We were told that the district council has been making progress and is still in contact with a number of retailers that would like to have retail outlets on Site 5.
Yes.
Will any of that go ahead before the vision consultation has been completed?
Highly unlikely.
Well, highly unlikely is merely a reflection of the fact that it takes Daventry an awful lot of time actually to get projects underway. The concern is there is no point in having a consultation on what is going to happen in Site 5 if contracts have already been signed and you have retailers moving into new premises in the area.
That's not going to happen. Unless, and if it does, it would have to come up before strategy and full council. If some proposal came up which looks irresistible, and officers think, well, that's probably a go. Perhaps this ought to go before council.
But does that mean that no planning for Site 5? I mean, there may be discussions about ideas, but no plans are being made for Site 5 at the present time.
Absolutely. Yeah, as you say.
And the deals that had been under negotiation with retailers have been shelved for the moment.
Shelved. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor James. Just one further question from myself. In terms of the consultation and the new town centre division that's been proposed on this slide, I know it's a hypothetical, but ultimately we've been preparing a vision document, a strategic document for a successor authority.
Yes.
Has any consideration been given to whether or not it may be better simply to leave the vision to the new authority?
Yeah, the worry there is if we left it to the new authority, Daventry might not be a priority.
Would that not be the case anyway, given that the implementation...
Well, even if it is the case, there would be a temptation, I think, by the new authority to say, what have we got? We need to raise some money. And I'm not saying that this is what they do, but it is a possibility that the new authority might think, well, we've got Northampton to concentrate on, regenerating Northampton Town Centre. That's going to cost an awful lot of money, which it will, even if they get a very, very substantial public grant from the High Street Fund. They might be very tempted to say, well, we are the unitary authority, and amongst assets which we could sell off. That will be open to them. Yeah.
I think just to add to that, again, a decision has not been made on the new town centre vision, and that's subject to report to council next week.
Yeah. Okay, perfect, thank you.
Yeah. So it's a difficult one, we're stuck in the middle, as it is. Right, now the bad news. A successful Future High Streets Fund bid. The decision was expected in the summer 2019. This could have provided an opportunity for DDC to fund enabling infrastructure. Nevertheless, it doesn't look as though DDC has been successful in this round. Northampton has been shortlisted with their bid.
A reason for their decision not to shortlist Daventry?
No.
Or it was just a flat no?
That's it, no. Yeah. There is the possibility they have a heritage fund.
Sorry, Councillor James.
I think just to come back on that point, the bids were heavily oversubscribed, or the pot was heavily oversubscribed, so I don't think we should read too much into not being successful.
There is a heritage fund, a very small amount of money available, which we have put in a bid there, but it's only a small amount of money in terms of the figures we've been talking about. I think it's 300,000. If we were successful, it would be 300,000 which we could use to help what is an historic high street, actually. So, you never know, there might be a consolation from this. Yes. Whilst we're on progress and vision, just I'll mention it here now. Other things that we've got a lot of projects on. One is the Reach for Health building, which has gone out to tender. A tender has come back for the building itself, but we are asking for another tender for the car park, because at the moment we've got one high tender, one low tender, and we're a little bit concerned about what quality the lower tender might be. So we're going for another tender on the car park at Reach for Health. Otherwise that is in-house going on. The other thing is, after many, many years, we're finally making a little bit of progress on the knoll, where we have someone who would like to develop the knoll for industrial use. That particular developer has obtained a substantial grant from SEMLEP to fund that development. And I suppose the next stage will be for a planning application to come in, and let's see what they propose to it. But that would provide valuable employment space. So whilst we're on Daventry, we'll throw that one in there. Right. Next, our priorities. Priority 1 is a thriving town centre. Now you can see that although we've only got a 4% void rate in Daventry town centre, which is abnormally low, nevertheless the footfall has drifted away. Those figures at the bottom are the years 13 to 14, 14 to 15, 15, 16 and so on. And you'll see that the average footfall has fallen within Daventry, as indeed it has in many towns up and down the length of the country. As people progressively buy things more and more off the internet. So our priority is to try and increase the footfall through the town centre with events, with Daventry Town Council. And I must say they make a good fist of the events that they put on. And it does encourage people to come into the town, whether it's motorbikes or vintage cars or food or whatever it is. And I still think that the market itself brings in a few people. We can keep that market going. Public realm improvements, that's improvements to the infrastructure within the town. Business engagement in Daventry through the Retailers Forum and the Daventry Business Network, where we can exchange views with the business community. I don't think Daventry has a Chamber of Trade and Commerce anymore. I'm not sure of that, but I don't think they do, which is usually, in many towns, is still, in these days, is a useful forum for interaction with businesses and business to business as well. We have implemented successfully a scheme of shop front improvement grants in the town to try and smarten things up. And I think Daventry's High Street and New Street looks quite nice at the moment. And the flowers and whatever. Yep. Councillor Ritchie.
I agree. What I wanted to ask about, though, was within the offices, are you rethinking Daventry by yourselves? Because it strikes me that, what we're looking at here with this sort of graph is really no different from what is happening to retail nationally. And many other towns have done loads of work and thinking, well, what actually is a town centre, therefore what do we mean by a town centre? And there are quite a number of, I hesitate to use the word consultancies, because consultancies usually sound like bad people who want to be paid loads of money for taking little responsibility. But there are, there are organisations that are there that have already done a lot of work, positive work with quite a number of towns in thinking through, well, how do you decide what a thriving town centre should actually mean. Obviously, it's a place where people go to buy things, but it's much more than a retail centre. And the other things actually might be more important than what its role is as a retail centre, as that the retail component is now going to move more and more to places like Elliott's Field and to Amazon. And therefore, it does raise a question. What do you do with this space that is there, that is surrounded by all the other estates in which people live? And I feel that that is the sort of question that, and it's just that I am grateful to DDC for enabling me to attend the LG conference. But there seemed to be so much discussion and other people talking about these ideas. I would just be anxious if we were not plugged in, so that we're learning from the other experiences. What is done in other towns may not be appropriate at all for Daventry, but at least the way of thinking, the analytical models that have been produced, I just feel are things that should be relevant to us, and we should be making use of them.
Well, of course, the officers have their own individual qualifications, some which is their own individual attributes, and a substantial amount of that is, of course, lateral thinking. They're interacting constantly with not only people from other local authorities, but also with other groups and organisations. SEMLEP, of course, is the one that springs immediately to mind. And so they've got their finger on the pulse, and then you get an old buffer like me that will go in and then we'll mention towns, maybe up to 5 towns. For example, Walsall, which has sadly fallen away now. Walsall has a very, very thriving market there. That brings people into town. Nuneaton, whose centre was destroyed really by a combination of Leicester Junction 21 and Coventry, and probably to maybe, I don't know, maybe Rugby with Elliott's Field there. It's not all that far up the road. But they too have a very, very successful market. It goes right round the streets, it does.
But you just said, you're talking there all the time about retail and marketing.
I mentioned trivia like that.
Culture and society.
I mentioned to officers trivia like they already know it. So they've got their finger on the pulse, as well as interaction, as you say, LGA, interaction with other local authorities. And I think there is a feeling growing that the days of the identikit high street is over. That we can't all have the same thing, that we have to have a different offer. One of the reasons, and I know, you personally may have disagreed with that, one of the reasons that the canal project was brought into being was to try and bring something different into the town to increase footfall. One of the reasons for having a cinema there is to provide something that's sadly needed anyway, but might encourage people to come into the town. These are all matters which should be discussed when we go in for a new town centre vision. What exactly are we going to do to get people in, and what are we to do with any space that might be surplus? I don't know. I don't think there will be any surplus space. If you go back many, many years, Sheaf Street, which is a very nice little street now, but many years ago you would have said that's for the demolition. You really would. But it does provide an element of quaintness, and it links in very well with our high street, which is a mixture of different eras of architecture.
Through the chair, basically looking at those footfall figures, it appears that we've lost a third of our footfall in 2 years, or thereabouts, perhaps a little less. And don't you think we've got our work cut out for us, really, to try and increase that? Is it realistic to try and increase it?
Yes, I think it is, because there was a period, a couple of years ago, when it was noticeable that Tesco's was very quiet. Now, I go into Tesco's about 3 times a week. A couple of years ago, it was noticeably quiet. And suddenly it's livened up. And that car park there, sometimes it's difficult to find a space, particularly on a Saturday. So maybe the focus, is changing. But yeah, I mean, we do have our work. There's work to be done, but I think it can be done. I really do. It is a pity that we don't have. Take Wellingborough, for example. Wellingborough has got Warwick's Gents Outfitters. Northampton has got Montague Jeffreys there. They still tick along and they draw people in, and people come in from the villages in each particular location to have that. It's getting niche retailers like that with a very, very good reputation, where people say, you want to see it go to a wedding, you know to go to. It's getting those sort of retailers. Now, I dare say, off the top of my head, I can't mention one particular, I shouldn't anyway, mention one particular one, but we know that there are people in Daventry that perform a service or sell goods where you know you can rely on them and they do a good job.
Councillor James, is any work being undertaken to look at other towns that may be bucking the trend and seeing increases in footfall, if such examples exist?
I don't think there's been any work done on that, no, but I suppose they'll be aware of it. I mean, I can't readily think of one off the top of my head, although I do have to say this. At the time of the referendum in Rugby, it was on a Saturday, there was hardly anyone in the centre there, hardly anyone at all. And a couple of weeks ago I went into Rugby Centre and there was quite a lot of people about. And then I went up to Elliott's Field and there was a lot of people about there too. So maybe one on our doorstep might be doing better than it has done previously.
Interesting to see some data.
Well, we're
Yeah,
3 times the size of Daventry.
Yes, well, it's...
Or is it? An example would have been Chester, actually.
Yeah.
Well, it's just a nice little town, isn't it?
Well, it is, isn't it? It's got a race course and it's got plenty of good pubs, as I remember too. Right. So increased footfall through town centre events, benchmarking intelligence. Well, in a sense, we've hinted at that. Public realm improvements, the digital high street. I think every retailer today should be internet savvy, and you should be able to contact any retailer to order things. If you want a particular item, it'd be nice to look on the web and find that there are plenty of Daventry retailers who are on the web that you could look into to find out if you can get what you want, instead of thinking, oh, I'll pop over to Northampton, pick something up.
So is there any kind of strategy around this to promote this?
Yeah, to make people interested. There is an event on October the 1st, they called the Google Digital Garage, which is going to help people and businesses get up to speed in using the internet. Am I right there, Mark?
That is right, Councillor. On the 1st of October, all the independents, particularly, perhaps the ones who need help, will be schooled in social media, Twitter, Facebook, etc. We've booked a space for 100 different traders to come in at the leisure centre, and there'll be 3 one-hour lectures, and backed up by local experts to help them. A lot of them do know what they're doing, but it's an encouragement.
That'll be at Daventry Leisure Centre.
Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you. Can I ask, there was a very interesting, I don't know how successful it was commercially, a leaflet that was produced by a group called the Daventry Independent Retailers that had a leaflet with a little map with, I think it was something like 50 different shops, small shops, in some cases not shops but hairdressers or other services around the centre of Daventry. Are you able to tell us a little bit more about what contact the district council has with that organisation, and whether the district council is in a position to give them any assistance in their marketing?
Yeah, I just refer to Matt. We saw this map. Well, I saw it. It was given to me. I've got a copy of it somewhere.
Yes.
At the event for business people we held up at Long March, wasn't it?
That's right. We have a very, very close interaction with the Retailers Association, the chair of which is Cheryl Fallon. She runs the Viridian Health Food Company. But nevertheless, there are 40 members of that Retailers Association. I meet with them regularly, and in fact presented something very similar to this to them with a round of applause. So we are working very closely with them, and I think when the visioning is up and running, you'll be quite impressed with the knowledge, and many of the questions you've raised will be allayed by their intelligence and involvement. It's quite encouraging. Similarly, I think there are 220 retail commercial businesses in the town, 70 of which are independent retailers, and that is our niche. So we do have very regular, to answer your question, very, very regular dialogue with them. I would say the initiatives include they're putting together a pack for new residents in the estates on the outside of the town, for example, so that they will come in and not float out to rugby, etc. So there's lots of good news coming from that direction.
Right, thank you. The second priority is a sustainable rural economy, since at least half the population live in the rural areas. First of all, funding to support rural businesses. DDC has given various grants in the last year that help us support rural businesses. Broadband, that's a difficult one. One of the problems of living in a rural district in particular is that to connect to high-speed broadband, you've got to make individual connections, really, often to places that are off the beaten track or certainly not directly onto a road. So that is difficult. And you look at figures for Daventry ultra-fast broadband, 15.9%. We're not much lower than South Northamptonshire, which is only 18.7%. Whereas the bigger urban towns, Northampton in particular, are quite substantial, 84.6% in Northampton. So that is a problem, and maybe Boris might put it right, I don't know. But we would need help there to get that done. And yet another problem, of course, is not only the internet in rural areas, sometimes I can't even get programs on TV. It's as bad as that. So, working on it. Generating employment in rural areas, well, I can tell you from my experience on the planning committee is the planning committee always looks favourable in accordance with the national planning policy framework, looks favourable on rural enterprises, and they do come up quite often, even if it is only a contentious one like the wedding venue of last week, or maybe another contentious one a few weeks before, which was the aircraft servicing one. But we, generally speaking, the planning committee goes by the book on those, and they encourage it wherever the conflict is not so great that it would have to be turned down. Access to public, generating employment in rural areas. No, I'll deal with that one separately. Access to public transport. We have put up money to save a couple of bus routes. Is it the 8 and 10?
That's right.
8 and the 10. Substantial amount of money to keep those going, to enable people from some of the rural areas, places like Rates, for example, get into Northampton, get to the station and Long-Buckby. We work with partners to encourage forestry and diversification. Whether it's a humble farm shop or whether it's a wholesale planting of a field with commercial type timber. And we do work with consultants like Lockhart Garrett of Corby on encouraging forestry and diversification. Protect and enhance local employment services. That can be done through the use of the LEADER programs, which is basically EU grants, which is basically our money anyway. We didn't give it to them in the first place. So hopefully that will continue, the LEADER program, to protect and enhance local employment services. Delivery of affordable and suitable housing. Well, we have exceeded targets both last year and likely to exceed again this year. I suppose one of the reasons for that is that we have had some sizable rural developments coming through in some of the villages along the straight off the top of my head, but there are many other villages too, West Ham and so on, Crick and so on. So we've been able to do that, and there have been some planning applications where almost, all of it in one case, was affordable housing recently. I think that was about. So we have done very, very well on that score, and hopefully we'll be able to continue it in the future if some of the more substantial schemes come to tap in Daventry itself. Moving on then to our third priority, employment, skills and business growth. To increase the supply of non-strategic employment land to support growth in the local economy and attract inward investment. We have managed to, so far, to achieve that with the Catesby Aerospace Research Project, which, if it goes through to full fruition, will provide, perhaps I would think, slightly higher paid jobs than is the norm in the area. That is well advanced. In fact, I think we have now signed a preliminary agreement with Catesby Aero Research Partners on this particular project. So it is advancing slowly and progressively. Again, STEMLET funded quite a bit of that to start with. The use of enterprise advisors, investment inquiries, DDC commercial investment, our commercial portfolio brings in, I think at the moment it's about 2 million a year, which helps funding and is being upgraded. Part of that, the industrial portfolio there. Business support. Well, I mentioned earlier on one or two things. The Google Digital Garage thing. Events like that. Events where we interact with other business people too. Business support, of course, that harks back to making the grants available in suitable cases to assist business. To increase skills again, to try and make full use of the digital economy, but to increase skills in the young people, for example. That means trying to get, let's say, more awareness of business and how it functions, more awareness of what the workplace, the real workplace is like. We did have a conference at the Icon Centre recently, where Semlet hosted it, where there were teachers there, business people there, who spoke about how they might give students work experience, get them into work experience, even if it's only a day or a few weeks or one day a week or something, or even only an hour on a day during lunchtime, to get them to see what the world of work is like, to give them an idea maybe of the sort of things they might want to pursue when they finally leave school, leave university, whatever it is. And that is very, very helpful to them, and they do appreciate it. As you know, kids always appreciate an outside speaker coming in, because that's better than the teachers, you know. But to increase skills amongst them and to point out to the sort of skills that are needed, communication probably being one of the most sought after, I think, or most desirable skills. And, you know, everybody has got an aptitude for something. There are very few people who have not got any sort of aptitude. The secret is finding out what they're good at and trying to motivate them in a direction in which they might be interested and have an attitude.
Councillor Ritchie?
I don't doubt that, but it's the same in absolutely every district and county within the country. And what is it that if somebody is thinking about setting up a business, you must have some materials that you provide that explain why Daventry is better than Milton Keynes, is better than South Wales, is better than Deeside. What are the selling points from a DDC perspective that says that people should come and set up their businesses here rather than somewhere else? What are the things in which Daventry has got a marketing advantage, that there's something here that we have got for a business that is better than what people would find somewhere else?
Well, I suppose the one that immediately springs to mind is the fact that it's cheaper here to rent premises than it is in Milton Keynes or...
You mean you're simply the cheapest, and that's the best we can do?
Oh yeah, it's, and of course our location here.
That's not about stuff.
This is one of many factors, but our location, easy to get on the M1, easy to get on the A5, easy to pick up the M6, and so on and so forth. It's our location. I mean, really, I suppose you could say we are the gateway to the West Midlands, aren't we? From this point of view here, we open up access there. If your business is going to rely on people who have bigger businesses in Coventry and Birmingham, very easy to get to, and also the station down the road.
But does the gateway concept not lead us into thinking about transport, distribution, the sorts of things that we have got loads of here, that we can cover the place in warehouses, but it doesn't actually provide the sorts of opportunities that you've just been talking about that we want for younger people.
Well, we're expanding. DDC district is expanding. A lot of houses coming in. That means there's job jobs for construction professionals, there's jobs for lawyers, and so on. And of course, businesses come in as well as jobs for accountants too. And the advent of the internet means that as long as you can get access to major roads and a railway line, the internet means you can locate pretty much where you like. As long as you've got easy access to the big cities, airport, and so on, which you have here, you can get anywhere from Daventry. And there's another factor as well. I mean, I've worked in Milton Keynes, so I know what it's like to work, and I know the workforce is good down in Milton Keynes. The majority of people in Milton Keynes are very positive, and they've got a can-do spirit. They don't turn things down readily. They don't adopt the attitude that you don't want to do that. They'll think about it, have a go. They'll go ahead down there. But where would I sooner live? I would sooner live here. It's much healthier, less crime here. And a lot of other social evils too, which you don't have here to the same extent as down there. So yes, it's got its advantages.
Just to make you aware, Councillor Jeff, we've got quite a bit more to get through on the agenda, so
Yeah,
we can conclude fairly swiftly.
I'll be as quick as I can. There's quite a bit here, I'll whiz it. And apprenticeships, we want to encourage apprenticeships. The council here has modern apprenticeships too. Improve secondary education provision. That goes without saying, we've talked about that. Priority 4, the visitor economy, engagement in local businesses and stakeholders. I know that's done because we had a meeting at Wheaton Barracks, didn't we, on that. So engaging with them, see what we can do and so on and so forth. Promotion of Daventry tourism offer. Yeah, we have got quite a lot of things that generate interest, country houses, stately homes and so on. So we do have a good tourism offer. Draycote Reservoir just over the water there, that's Pittsford Reservoir. The one down near Banbury, can't remember the name. Funding for tourism development that is available, and represent the interests of Daventry within the wider tourism initiatives. Produce the Daventry District Official Guide by the Daventry, which has all these things mentioned in it. I didn't know the other day that you could have a drive-in cinema somewhere in the district. Is it Kelmarsh, is it? Well, there's definitely a drive-in cinema. Yeah, somewhere, yeah. I suppose any small one, but I can't remember where it was. Monitor the impact of the sector. Well, of course, I haven't mentioned that we did have a cycle race here for a couple of years running, wasn't it? The Ovo cycle race, which generated quite a bit of activity within the town itself. Daventry Arts Festival this year. And then the one you've been waiting for, the North East Sustainable Urban Extension. The consortium agreed to submit a planning application for £4,000 by the end of July this year. So we await with trepidation to see if they
got 2
win.
weeks.
Yeah, they got 2 weeks to do it. I mean, Ken and I have been to meetings where there have been plenty of planners there to talk about this project, while the builder remains quite silent on it. But that's what we promised, that a planning application will come in by the end of July. And as you know, the council agreed to surrender its leasehold interest in the Canal and River Trust land at Churchfield, the one north along Buckby Road, in exchange for rights to construct the Daventry to Braunston cycleway, enabling the consortium to develop Churchfields and at the same time enabling us to get on with the Braunston cycleway, which hopefully now we shall be able to do within the next financial year. Long last to get that cycleway finished. So that, I think, brings to the end of my presentation. Any final points anyone wants to make before we adjourn?
I mean, just an observation. I'm glad that the cycleway will be completed. It was anticipated that the cycleway would have been completed before I was first elected as a councillor in 2016. What is the... clearly we're now in a position where we don't have years that we can wait. How confident are you that the things that you've said that will be delivered before DDC ceases to exist?
Right, we should get this thing done. We should get the Boston cycleway done. We should get the Catesby Catesby tunnel project done. We should get the Reach for Hills project done. A lot of the rest will have to wait. I don't think we should get, for example, we might do. We might get the Knoll done by then. If they get on with the planning application out front, we could get that done in time. That would be, they've waited, I think I'm right in saying, about 16 years, wasn't it? That one. That's a long time.
So quite a lot going on there.
Yeah, it's an awful lot more. I mean,
I think that's probably enough for the time being.
Bridge over the canal at Crick. That'll be done.
That'd be great.
Well, I think we're there. Thank you very much, Councillor James. That's very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're free to go.
You're free to go. Early release. Thank you.
Thank you. So,
I've got to move on. No, I can move it down.
I haven't closed it down.
Because
Just close it down.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
someone else on.
It's alright, it's me, don't worry.
next on to item 5, the strategic plan. I'll go through update from Julie.
Sorry, bear with me while I get the steering sorted. Yeah, we're there. Okay, we finished the year on 4 reds, which actually meant we achieved 85% of our corporate strategic plan, which I think was a good result. So if you're happy, I'll just talk by exception of the red ones. The first one, you probably don't want to ask anything about this because you've just heard all about it, well, certainly lots of it. The rural transport and economic strategy. It did fail at the last hurdle in suddenly went red, and the reason for that, partly as you've heard, was because resources were actually diverted into working on particularly the government's Future High Street Fund, which unfortunately at this point hasn't been successful, but it very much had an impact. Work is ongoing again now, and this strategy, rural transport and economic strategy, has now actually become the economic development strategy. So quite a few changes there, but was all on progress until that last kind of quarter. But they are already working on the following targets and the following the existing issues and moving forward quite swiftly on things. Any questions on that one?
No.
The next one is E3.1. So this was number of action days facilitated to enhance our environment. This one, again, fell at the final hurdle, had done quite well till then. As it says there, the target was not met due to reduced resources and priority houses in multiple occupations work. They had 4 very good action days until then. You've heard about, obviously, the women's tour, and some good work in the country park, headlands, etc. And again, they're now kind of picking up on that and moving forward. Resources were an issue, have now, well, they're just beginning to stabilise again. And hopefully moving forward well for this coming year. Obviously, bear in mind, I'm reporting at the end of March, which seems a long way ago right now, having just met about Q1 this morning. But things are, moving forward on that one.
Councillor Ritchie?
Can I just ask, if officers find that description of the target terribly clear and precise, it just strikes me as what you call as an action day that will facilitate, that will enhance our environment. Is it a definition that is absolutely tight in what it is?
If I may, all of our measures have firm details behind them that state what it is that's measured, how it's measured, what the units are. It's in a supplementary document. I think I have brought it to this committee before, actually, so it is all defined.
If it's in a single document, if it's possible to have that circulated so that we understand what these measures are.
I think that's a good idea.
I'm pretty sure we have circulated it previously. The only thing I will say is it's not a problem at all, but obviously we're proposing changes to the corporate strategic plan that goes through committee next week, so I'll need to amend them to reflect the changes, because that's the only bit of the puzzle I haven't yet done. But not a problem. But it does go into that detail and tell you. But action days, generally they're, for instance, at the headlands, they'll get the community involved, they'll get volunteers involved, key residents, key groups that might use the area, or, North or grounds maintenance, and they'll do a big day of action to try and, what can we do to improve the area, which might be, weeding, putting trees in, new benches, litter picks, whatever. But they do work very, very well, and have a good big sort of clean-up and almost like, thorough deep cleanse that can then be carried on a regular basis. So the next one is E4.1. So this one, I'll just move it along there, just so you can see. This was green all year because they weren't really expecting anything to happen, but again, unfortunately, at the end, when it should have gone to moving forward, it didn't quite happen. This was about the restoration of Overston Hall. They were looking to convert the hall to 16 residential units. Planning committee deferred making the decision, and further investigations were undertaken, and they're hoping that at that point that it would be returned to committee in the near future. So the planning brief that it mentions there at the bottom has, I believe, now been agreed, and this measure also has changed slightly going forward to look at the planning brief and the planning development of the site. Sometimes things are outside of our control, and unfortunately this was one that, despite multiple attempts, kind of eluded us at the final hurdle. So the last red, I believe, is this one. Yeah. So I'm just trying to centre that on the screen. It's not going to work, is it? But this one ended red again at the last minute, so I can just find my appropriate page. And this was about percentage of internal health and safety audit recommendations that are actioned in a timely manner. There were 36 recommendations. The difficulty with the recommendations, it's very much about are they high, medium or low, and that's how they're prioritised, and obviously they worked on the high first. As it states there, the two that became an issue were 5 procedure-related recommendations, and the scale of the remedial works was such that it has taken quite a long time to actually complete them. And one of those is still outstanding, but they are progressing on, and it was to do with some of the fire regulations in the building and the fire doors that have had an awful lot of work on, certainly over the last few months. But there is progress on there. Again, we're reporting on it quarterly. This has carried through to the to this year's corporate strategic plan. So you'll see it did drop down there and ended up, unfortunately, in the red on 82%. But a lot of work going on at that at the minute, because obviously it's a priority issue in terms of health and safety. And I'll just show you, so as you see there at the end we actually achieved 85% of measures which were green or amber, which was within 5%, leaving us in the green overall on a corporate strategic plan, which I think, given the challenges we've all faced over the last year, has been good to still achieve and get that far.
Any questions or comments? Thank you very much, Julie, and thanks for your patience and your good to next up, we've got the rolling work programme. I know Councillor Howard has family commitment that she needs to get back for reasonably shortly, so with the British permission, I'd like to bring forward item D under number 6, Youth Democracy. Councillor Howard's going to present a scope of documents following the decisions that the full council have made.
Yeah, so as it says, it's to see what steps DT can take to assist with the establishment of a youth council in the Western Hertfordshire area. This was brought forward by Councillor Ramsey, which was rejected at full council just because of the timings. So we're going to look at empowering young people and see if they can have their say and be heard moving forward into the new unitary. We've got them here, autumn 2019. Is that okay with everybody? Yeah, because we're going to look at holding some events with the under 18s, like the 11 to 18 year olds, and work closely with other councils. So I believe Northampton Borough. Do you have a youth council already? So there's a few things that take place, and also we're falling into the summer period.
Yeah. I was just about to say, I know we've got our next meeting at the end of September, which will be too soon. What subsequent meetings do we have this year?
19th of November, and then it's January.
Okay, so to allow you some decent time for engagement with schools, should we set a target date of 19th of November?
Okay. And then once this has been approved tonight, we have pre-dates and meetings arranged already set up with Councillor Adam Hills and Chris Miller, and communicating, getting some under 18-year-olds involved. Currently I've got Councillor Aidan Ramsey, so once this has been approved, Councillor Aidan Ramsey will go ahead with his side of the task panel, and there's a few others that probably will get involved.
Councillor Ritchie.
I'm glad to hear that this is happening. I was one who fully supported the motion that went to the last council meeting. I'm worried that this actually isn't anything. Things will happen with the West Northamptonshire Council because there are proposals that will be developed there, but there are other bits of West Northamptonshire that are much further advanced than we are in the links that they have with young people. I'd hoped that the motion would have led to us doing a bit of catching up. And I would have thought that at least that within the task schemes, that if in the course of the discussions that you have, and I'm thinking not about the discussions that you have with other councillors and with officers, I make the exception to that Councillor Ramsey, who is professionally involved every day in working with young people and those who provide services for young people. But if there are things that can be identified that this council can usefully do, even within its final 18 months, then it should do it. And I would hope that that there wasn't a bar on the task panel making recommendations if it was felt appropriate.
I believe that's entirely down to this committee in terms of the recommendations that it makes, and Tony's nodding his head in agreement. So, depending on the evidence and the feedback that the task panel is able to obtain, it's up to the task panel lead and Councillor Howard and the other members, including Councillor Ramsey, to present the recommendations that they see as most appropriate. So I'm sure they'd appreciate input from all members of the council. Yes, Tony.
Yeah, just a couple of comments. I'm afraid it's fairly late in the day, but we had late sight of the document from a management point of view. Just a suggestion in witnesses to be invited to include Kevin Fagan, who's the Community Safety Partnership Manager. Kevin has had some experience with working with youth groups through the Community Safety Partnership, so that might be useful. And also, just for completeness, I know you mentioned in your introduction, Councillor Howard, about speaking to younger people or youth groups. Perhaps just need to capture something in the scoping document to that effect.
I think if we, with your agreement, Councillor Howard, if we then amend the methodology to surveying / interaction with local youth groups, captures it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Are you happy with that? Councillor Robertson? So if we're adding that into the methodology and then adding Kevin Fagan as a witness to be invited. Were there any other comments?
No, that was it.
Yeah, fantastic. Anything else that you wanted to add?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Is the committee happy to accept the scoping document as amended? Yeah. Thank you very much. So if we resynchronize ourselves now and go back to item 6A, just a verbal update from me on the voluntary services support. I have now collated quite a large volume of evidence and data regarding BPC's ongoing support for the voluntary services, including the number of users, the trends over a 3-year period. I had hoped to have the report completed for this meeting, but actually I've changed tack slightly, having been to the West Northampton Joint Committee and heard from the representative of the CAB there. My intention now is to actually make this a slightly wider scope report and recommendations to actually present something tangible in terms of modelling how we can interact pretty comprehensively with the voluntary sector as we move towards unitary and present some kind of recommendations of best practice and engaging with the voluntary sector from their point of view. Because previously, when I'd spoken to voluntary groups, it isn't the actual procurement side of things and the that initial stage isn't something that I'd been raising with them. So off the back of the WNJC meeting, I think actually that would be probably a better use of this report to make it something that that the unitary authority can then hopefully pick up. And as a result, I've been speaking with colleagues at NBC and SNC about how they interact with their voluntary sector partners, and that will be incorporated into the final report, which will be here in September. Comments, observations, questions? Okay, thank you. Councillor Robertson, I know you've recently had some surveys or was a bit completed for your
This is a Sign 30 review of DDC North joint venture and a verbal update for you. Now, the report is nearing completion, we're pleased to know, after quite a long period, and it's in three parts as follows: an executive briefing, which is the last bit to be written, the customer perspective, which is effectively our parish councils in this case, and an officer/stroke member's perspective, which I received this very day. Anyway, the executive briefing will take the usual format of being a brief synopsis of the entire report. The customer perspective is already complete and consists of a questionnaire sent to our parish councils in the form of an online survey, in fact, Survey Monkey, which some of you may be familiar with, which I would like to thank Councillor Mark Wesley for his assistance in that. Now, the officer member perspective, I received this very day at 12:36, as a matter of fact, so I haven't had time to fully appraise it yet and fully consider it, that is. However, there doesn't seem to be, on cursory reading of it, doesn't seem to be anything which appears to be insurmountable there. Overall, the report should be complete by mid-August this year, and I understand that protocol dictates that before coming to this committee, it has to go to the executive. Is that the case?
To senior management.
So, yes. Yeah, well, I can executive call it. Yeah, so the SMT basically.
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely.
And that was just what I just wanted confirmation of that. And so, anyway, as I say, it'll be ready probably mid-August. Now, I don't know when they next meet.
We have a meeting late-ish August, so that would probably...
Well, we're just about right then, yeah. And we don't meet again until September, is that right?
24th of September.
Yeah, so I can probably present the whole thing then, if always assuming that...
I fully understand that, that the SN senior management team, the senior management team is going to want to look at recommendations so that it is in a position to make any corrections or any observations that need to be made from, from their perspective of the practicalities of what is proposed. We as a committee should not make recommendations to the strategy group until we've heard from the senior management team. But I don't see why we as a committee should not see a report at an earlier draft stage at the same time that there's a report that goes to the senior management team. Why can't we as a committee actually see it? They're not scrutinising us.
That is an option.
We are scrutinising them, and at that stage we can accept that that the senior management team will have an input that it wants to make. But I just feel that it causes an unnecessary delay, and this council doesn't have time on its side.
So I think Tony has a formal...
Yeah, I think just a couple of points. I think we just confirmed the date for SMT was 28th of August.
28th of August.
So, if we could see it before then, that would be good. That's not critical, as long as we can see it before the next committee meeting, because we can.
The point is, I think Ken was suggesting the committee see it first, therefore it will delay by about,
I was simultaneously.
But
I mean, I was about to say that whilst we quite often present verbal updates, there is always the option for task panel leads to present an interim report that that hasn't been in front of SMT.
I'm sorry, I was just going to come on to that as a second point. What SMC consider when the reports come is just matters of factual accuracy. So we wouldn't comment on the recommendations necessarily, but it's just to make sure.
There won't be a problem with that in any case.
From personal experience, actually, the SMT does a very good job of ironing out any potential legal difficulties or matters of presentation that may cause the council difficulties.
There's quite a lot
to go
of
to
it.
the public domain prematurely.
There's quite a lot of the statistical evidence, as we've described in the past, both from officers and from parish councils, although not all of them replied. They never seem to reply.
But as the chairman has already indicated, there's nothing to stop the report being circulated at the same time or before. That's within your prerogative as chairman.
Or indeed informally via email, via the group.
Well,
email
there's only 5 of us, so that wouldn't be difficult. But it does mean that we can't actually get together and meet on the subject before the next SMT senior management committee meeting, I should say.
Okay, but so any further comments from either of you on this matter? No. Thank you. Okay, so on to. So was there something covered?
That's just what I've just said. Probably that we've written it all down already.
It's on your piece of paper. Thank you.
On to probably the most important matter on the agenda. The agenda does say Councillor Ritchie to present a scoping document. For the record, it is a scoping document that I've prepared and that's been reviewed by the SMT with a view to Councillor Ritchie taking the project forward. So I'll hand the floor to you, Councillor Ritchie, for any comments you may have on the scoping documents.
Well, thank you for putting it together and filling in the boxes. I'm happy without being totally happy. And I'll tell you what, I think what is missing. I leave aside a long discussion that you, Chair, will be aware of, but others may not. About and it has brought us right back to the start. It was an issue about what is it that a task panel is actually allowed to do, and I'm perfectly happy with the remit that is given to task panels within the DDC constitution. I have got no problem with that. One of the things that the only things that I would think that need to be added, I'm looking at the task objectives 1 to 4. One of the things that I raised was the fact that DDC ought to take a leadership role in making people in other organisations in the district aware of climate change and things that they ought to do to reduce harmful emissions. Not just because I say it is because DDC is already committed to that. We are signed up to the Northamptonshire Climate Change Strategy, it's called something like that. And that is specifically one of the objectives that is there within that strategy. So I think that it is one of the things that we actually need to have there.
Is that not covered in the last part of the task aims, providing leadership to local communities?
I see. Yeah. It's a name, but not an objective. Yeah. I mean, if you're, I just feel for the other objectives have been spelled out. And I suppose looking at the task schemes, the other thing I was going to suggest is that there also perhaps needs to be a sort of undo other things that may arise that may be put to the task panel that clearly the district council should be thinking about in relation to climate change issues, emissions and stuff. So there ought to be something else that doesn't quite confine it. The only thing that is there that is not included in the scope put down as being DDC's financial investments. I don't know who put that there, if that was an officer's thing or if that was your suggestion.
I omitted it on the basis of the Chief Financial Officer's advice to Council on the night that we debated the motion that was presented to Council.
Well, look, I mean, if it's excluded, okay. If there's a decision that we take here to exclude it, then it is excluded. But there are many other councils across the land, including Conservative councils, that have looked at their investments and how their investments actually might be in, the oil industry or in coal mining, places where they shouldn't be mining coal or fracking or all of these other things that they might take a view on. And contrary to what was suggested by some at the meeting, all banks, or all big fund managers now have got ethical investment advisors, ethical investment packages where you can pick and choose as to what it is, what are the things that you feel you don't want to invest in. It is a perfectly normal thing to do within the financial sector these days. If we, the three of us who are left, if I'm outvoted 2-1, then okay, I have got to accept that. But I will not accept it if the Chief Financial Officer, whom, we are lucky with the Chief Financial Officer that we have got, we have with somebody who is always helpful, who claims to be prudent, and I've got no reason to doubt her competence, but she should not be the person that tells us what questions we should be asking about how DBC runs its affairs.
Okay. On that basis, I'd be prepared to consider removing that if you're willing to have a discussion with the CFO about the issue at length. The last thing I want to do is bind your hands or the task panel's hands unnecessarily. I put that in there on the basis of what was heard on the night, but I hear your arguments, and I don't know if you have any views on this, Councillor Robbins.
No, I don't really. I'll talk about all of it. I didn't really know that she did advise, to be honest.
I think she advised on, if I remember full council, the debate at full council rightly, I think she advised that it would be an extremely complex undertaking to start picking apart the financial investments, especially when you get down to pension funds. They're quite diverse.
Sure, and I mean that of course is something that is going to be take account of. I thought you commented more by facial expression rather than words.
I may be looking elsewhere at the time. If it's your proposal to omit the exclusion of the BBC financial investments, I won't stand in your way on that. So you're proposing that we...
I'm proposing, yes. This is there amongst many other things. Yeah. And the scale, the range of things that other councils are doing or looking at means that we won't be able to do it all by any means, and I think that
the concept of ethical investment is one that I fully subscribe to, and I have concerns about investing in certain sovereign wealth funds where the governments may not be as in tune with human rights as we are in this country. I don't think it's right to have a separation in this one, although somewhat related. So in that case, I'll concur with your proposal and remove that from the scheduling document next.
Can I suggest you on the on methodology? Engagement with local experts. It depends exactly what you mean by a local expert who decides who's an expert, who's a non-expert.
I'll leave that to the judgment of the task panel.
Well, I mean, clearly it doesn't the task panel. I'm quite keen that it is an opportunity for the district council to be seen to be engaging with people who want to say things to district council. I understand that there was a student demonstration outside Rugby Council a few weeks ago. I like think that we had students who felt that they wanted to come and protest outside this building, but if there are people to make sure that it's a sign that the district council is available to them. There's no sense in which these are people who can tell the district council what to do. The recommendations are clear. The recommendations that are actually being about the task panel. But in terms of listening, and the other area, there are now, I can't remember what the number is, of councils that have formally signed up to the network of councils that have declared climate emergency. The LGE itself has declared that there is a climate emergency and constantly connect. But it is a big number. Some of them have been at it for a lot longer than 10 years. I was actually surprised to find that the ones who'd actually, well, the one who struck me that has done most and gone furthest is actually a Conservative council in West Sussex. But I just feel that we need to have the opportunity to find out what others have been able to do. There are a lot of things about having, no diesel trucks in town centres might make sense in Northampton and Leicester. I'm not quite sure that we terribly much sense in that place like Daventry. Not everything that others have done are necessarily going to be relevant in Daventry. But I feel that we need to actually have an understanding of, what this and what doesn't.
And is there a proposal there to amend the methodology? Desk research is quite a broad term. It could capture an awful lot of what you say.
I think if it's loosely interpreted, we could go a long way. But if what I have said is the broad understanding of how the task panel would operate, then
I've got no objections. I don't think there's anything constitutionally to restrict you in that manner. Tony?
No, I think if the sort of elements of the discussion are captured in the minutes, then that will add some weight to that.
Yeah.
I think just in terms of completeness of the scoping document, have you given any thought to milestones or completion dates?
Yes. This is. It's a unique task panel in many ways. You could, in a sense, conclude it very quickly and bring back recommendations very quickly, or alternatively, you could be a much more thorough investigation into how the council is approaching this issue. I've no strong feelings one way or the other. You may, from the point of view of wanting to kind of let the public know that we are taking this seriously, I think sooner rather than later is
this committee meets every couple of months.
Yes. End of September, and then the 19th of November the next meeting dates. And then January.
I would have. November seems an awful long time away. On the other hand, September is on the other side. September is not realistic, I think. But I would be happy if it was put down that that would be the date on which there was an interim report.
So the key milestone date, so an interim report on the 24th of September.
And that report can easily then indicate what other work or areas are to be investigated, and either come up with other interim reports or kind of final report.
I mean, as we saw with the TDECL report, there's, we are able to make, recommendations, prior to the final report, and not.
Yes, I mean, certainly you are, but I think it would just help focus the work or the minds of the task panel and the committee if a completion date was suggested now. So if it turns out the interim report means that it's going to take longer or shorter, then it can be.
So are we going to go with November for the task due completion date?
I would stick with November for an interim, and then we'll be talking about mid-January, February for
January.
21st of January.
21st of January.
So I've got task due completion date 21st of January, key milestone dates, interim reports in September and November. Anything further, or are we happy to accept the scope of documents as amended? Agreed. Thank you very much. That concludes 6. Now on to implementation activity. And update on progress. First of all, do you take over this?
Yes, I'll do this one, Chairman. So 7A, which is assignment 19, which is on page 13 of the papers. And I think just draw attention to action 5, which is on page 14. This relates to Leisure Centre East. Whilst the target date was 2020, there is a report from the strategy group and goes on to council, which might alter that time frame.
I know it was at strategy last week.
Yes.
Will it go to full council next week?
There's a recommendation going to council next week. So whilst there's no change in the status, it's just I thought we'll give notes here. Then on to assignment 20. There's no change in the action plan there. The one remaining item is due in December 19. Then on to assignment 21. Again, no change here, and the remaining actions are due August and November 19.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And we've got the 1-year post-implementation activity reviews. This is homework to be handed out.
Yes, Chairman, perhaps I can just explain to committee, because I think it's the first one the committee in this membership has seen.
Yes, it is, yeah.
Part of the programme of the reviews and recommendations from S&I, they go on to the strategy group and through to council and become resolved items. And the practice is that the committee will revisit the actions 12 months beyond their implementation date, and essentially it's a fairly light touch review process. So what we've got before us on the paper now is that the assignment, which was assignment 10, DDC's rural economic role strategy, those actions, we're now at the anniversary of the last of those actions being delivered. and it's for committee to assign this to a member to do a quick review and report back normally at the next meeting.
Okay. Just thinking this through, Councillor Robertson, is this something you're able to have a look at?
What I was going to suggest was that Councillor Wesley's not here, isn't there?
Well, that's a proposal. I'm sure Councillor Wesley would be more than happy to help out, so we'll pass that on to Councillor Wesley. She'll blame you for that. Actually, we don't mind backtracking. I mentioned Councillor Wesley, I've got a note down here. And back onto the rolling work programme, Councillor Wesley had made a proposal for a new task panel for himself, which was to look at DDC engaging with the public to encourage participation in elections effectively, and how that can best be managed. I did refer this on to the returning officer for the council, whose advice was that the manner in which the council engages with the public in terms of elections and publicising of them is very prescriptive in terms of the legislation that exists. I think the returning officer advised me of a multitude of different pieces of legislation that he has to abide by in his role. And so, Councillor Wesley has received that advice, but is still keen to explore ways in which the council can try and enhance engagement with the public to encourage their participation in elections, etc. Off the back of the advice from the returning officer, I have concerns about how effective a piece of scrutiny work can be in terms of trying to work around those legislative requirements. I don't know what your feelings are, whether we're happy for Councillor Wesley to try and pursue something of that nature, or whether we think his attention to be better focused elsewhere.
Can we have a discussion at our next meeting, or is that too far away?
We can have a discussion. We can have a discussion.
I accept that I might be a little bit out of date. We all go that way. But up until the end of 2010, this is one of the issues that I was involved in the group that actually agitated with what was at the trial. This was a very good government we had that we did in 1997. And one of the things that it did was set up the Electoral Commission and introduce the PP, the parliamentary, what was all stands for, the PPURE, it was the elections, political parties, elections and referendums act.
Okay.
That recognised the political parties and sort of set out rules. And in the years that followed, one of the big dilemmas was that it was then, and still is the case, that when it comes to an election, in terms of the election itself, it is the returning officer that is in charge. There have been proposals that have been brought in from, as far as I know, have never been pushed, have always been resisted, that returning officers are a law unto themselves. The only way their actions can be challenged would be in court. There are now a lot of areas where the Electoral Commission will set down what their expectations are of returning officers, and will award them brownie points if they don't quite deal with us, or if they do things well, but not if they don't. So, it's not... There is a sort of standardisation that has been taking place of what is expected of returning officers.
Well, I think
there is another area that is less prescribed. Work that is done in encouraging participation can can be done by councils. I think when I say councils, but not under the office of the returning officer. The electoral registration office is an office of the council, and work in promoting participation in elections is generally done by them. And I know that certainly when I was still involved with this, there was a huge variation in what different electoral registration officers would do. I mean, in some cases, all you got was the little polling card. In other cases, people would put up billboards and loads and loads of arguments about what actually was effective use of money. There were loads of arguments between electoral registration officers, returning officers, and the elected members about where the responsibility for turnout lay between local government, it means a general election, it's local government that runs it, between local government and the political parties, whose fault it was that people wouldn't turn out and vote. And I think there's a lot to be discussed there, and there's a lot that other local authorities actually do. Whether it is worth doing or not, I mean, that is something that we would need to discuss. But I just think that there's a much bigger issue that we ought to have a discussion on.
Okay. I rather feel that the subject is slightly outside the scope of this committee, because
That's my concern.
it can become partisan for a start, and because with all due respect, Ken, you're in a minority party here. It might not be in your interest to pursue this, or maybe in your interest. I don't know. It just doesn't feel right to me to be pursuing this as a scrutiny and improvement committee. What are we trying to do here? We're trying to get people to turn out. Who's going to turn out and who are going to target them? And it just doesn't seem right.
Is there, I can't remember off the top of my head, but is there an objective under the corporate strategic plan that would come close to fitting with this?
No, Chairman. In fact, can I just make a couple of points
Yes,
responding to what Councillor Ritchie was saying? I think, with all respect, since 2010, things have moved on, particularly around electoral registration. Individual electoral registration has come in, so the way that people register has changed significantly. That's the first point. In terms of participation at elections and performance issues around that, the Electoral Commission do play a role in that, and for any electoral event, and we've got a by-election running this week, we do produce a project plan, and we measure ourselves or assess ourselves against the standards that are required by or suggested by the Electoral Commission. So there's a lot of work that goes on with that, and I mean, potentially there's a lot of data there. Potentially there could be a lot of benchmarking done if that was a way of assessing us against others. Picking up on the returning officer's role and legislation, yes, it is very prescribed, and the returning officer has individual responsibility for returning officers for the process around elections. I think, yes, there's an argument that around participation that maybe is something that could be looked at. So,
I mean, maybe if we, I don't see that there's any harm in asking Councillor Wesley to prepare a draft scoping document to be inspected by the relevant parties and then potentially discussed at the next meeting, and we can maybe go from there. I mean, the issue is an important one, but we just need to be absolutely certain that it is something that's within our gift to influence and to actually investigate. So if you're happy, I'll go back to Councillor Wesley and raise those points.
I think, Chairman, just to add and maybe to assist Councillor Wesley, is if he wanted to have a discussion with somebody, an officer around that, then I'm sure myself or others would be welcome, would be happy to do that. And if we're looking, if the focus of a review was around participation, then that might include our comms team in terms of giving an understanding of what we do currently.
I'll pass that advice on to him. Thank you. In that case then, we are on to the portfolio holder attendance at our next committee meeting. Thinking through the various portfolio holders, we've done the rounds fairly well recently. I struggle to think of anyone who we haven't seen in the recent past. The person who probably seen least recently, maybe back to Councillor Guildford, but then she...
No, she wasn't that long ago.
We had Councillor Miller several months ago to talk about unitary. We've had Councillors Morgan and Councillor James today. Am I missing anyone?
Maybe not you. Yeah, there's...
Councillor Hills we haven't seen for...
I haven't seen Councillor Hills, and we haven't seen... Who's the portfolio holder for finance?
Councillor Morgan, I did mention
No,
that.
no, the other one. Oh, Chris, not anymore. So that's all right.
Should we invite Councillor Hills on the basis that we haven't seen him in a little while? He's community and leisure. Are there any particular areas that we wish him to update us on, or just general oversight of ongoing work? So it'll be Councillor Hills then we'll be inviting. We'll send him an email this evening. And there's no urgent business, so that concludes matters tonight. Thank you very much.